have you no decency? This judge says, have we no shame? And so this is why the Trump administration is so upset. They don't like activist judges. Of course, these days, an activist judge is just a judge who disagrees with you. The right wing loves activist judges when they rule their way.
A political storm is brewing that threatens to reshape the very foundation of our constitutional system. The actions of President Trump's administration are now colliding head-on with the judiciary, and the stakes have never been higher. In a rare, sharp, and forceful move, a senior judge, appointed by Reagan no less, has stepped into the spotlight, fast-tracking cases that could change the way the executive branch interacts with the courts. The man at the center of this? Senior Judge William Young, whose 40-year career in the courtroom is now being tested like never before. But what has truly caught the public's eye is how quickly these cases are moving. The New York Times has already reported that Judge Young, a veteran of high-profile cases, is pushing these matters forward with an urgency that is completely at odds with the more cautious, delayed approaches of his peers. And this is not just any case, it's a confrontation between the judicial and executive branches that could have far-reaching consequences. Immediate consequence. Trump's executive orders and actions are now under direct, accelerated scrutiny. What happens in these courtrooms over the coming months could define the limits of presidential power for a generation. And make no mistake, the battle is already set. One side is pushing for a sweeping interpretation of presidential authority. The other side, the courts, the judiciary, will either uphold or challenge this massive expansion of power. Shock to the system. Judge Young is no ordinary judge. His bold, unapologetic stance has made waves. While some judges have been accused of hesitating or delaying, Young has taken a different path. He's making decisions quickly and decisively. This isn't a slow dance. This is an all-out legal battle. And here's the shocking part. The Trump administration is furious. Why? Because Young is not merely interpreting the law. He is holding the executive branch accountable. At the heart of it lies the core question: how far can the president go in expanding his authority, particularly when it comes to military powers and federal funds? And will the courts finally put a check on this presidential power grab? Judge Young's courtroom is where the rubber will hit the road. The nation is watching closely as this clash between the executive and judicial branches escalates. But this isn't just about a single decision. It's about the future of our nation's legal and political landscape. Before diving deeper into the conflict, let's reset the context. What exactly are we dealing with here? This isn't some academic, abstract legal debate. It's a battle for the soul of how power operates within the United States government. On one hand, we have the executive branch, under President Trump, which has repeatedly sought to expand presidential powers beyond historical norms. On the other hand, we have the judiciary, tasked with defending the Constitution and ensuring that no branch oversteps its bounds. Now, the most critical issue facing the nation is the expansion of executive authority, particularly under Trump's administration. A series of executive orders have allowed the president to make sweeping changes to U.S. military and immigration policy, even calling on the National Guard and imposing stringent conditions on federal funds for states. Here's where the rub lies. The judiciary's role is to interpret the Constitution. The courts are there to hold the executive in check. And this is where Judge William Young enters the picture, taking on a number of cases related to Trump's executive actions. Young is moving quickly, making waves across the legal landscape. He's not interested in playing by the rules of delay that some of his peers have followed. He's setting his own course, and it's a fast one. But let's get into the specifics of these cases and why they are so crucial. One case centers on whether Trump's administration has the legal right to federalize the National Guard, an issue that has profound implications for federal-state relations. In essence, can the president bypass state sovereignty to impose his will on the National Guard? In a stunning move, Judge Young has fast-tracked this case, putting it on the fast track to trial, refusing to let it get bogged down in procedural delays. The stakes are enormous because it involves the executive's ability to impose control over state forces, and it could set the stage for even broader presidential powers in future conflicts. As Judge Young drives the case forward, there is escalating pressure on all fronts. The executive branch is deeply invested in expanding its powers. They want to federalize military forces and assert control over state resources. But as the case progresses, one thing is clear: the courts are not in a forgiving mood. The real turning point comes when we look at the political ramifications of this battle. The rejection of Trump's sweeping executive powers by Judge Young could have a profound ripple effect across the nation's legal system. And it doesn't stop there. The courts are being pressured not only by the executive branch, but by other political forces who see this case as the perfect opportunity to reshape the nation's balance of power. The escalation is palpable. The Trump administration has made its intentions clear. It wants the courts to rubber stamp its unilateral actions, particularly in areas like military and federal funds. But Judge Young isn't having any of it. The defiance is real, and the clash between the executive and judicial branches is now inevitable. What happens next is crucial. Will the courts allow this power grab to go unchallenged, or will they push back, reaffirming the limits of presidential authority? In these high-profile cases, there are no easy answers. But one thing is certain, the legal battle will be fierce. Let's take a moment to reflect on the collapse of image versus reality that's happening right now. Trump's administration has painted itself as a forceful, decisive leader, a president who takes action swiftly and without hesitation. But the truth is beginning to show its cracks. Despite the administration's confidence, the courts are pushing back hard, and they are not playing along with the narrative of unchecked power. Judge Young's actions expose a growing rift between the image the administration has cultivated and the reality of how the law operates in practice. This isn't about pushing for more executive action. This is about ensuring that the rule of law remains intact. As the legal challenges pile up, one thing is becoming crystal clear. The Trump administration's options are dwindling. The executive's powers are being constrained in ways that threaten to undermine the administration's boldest plans. As court after court rejects its policies, the message becomes inescapable. The administration can't run roughshod over the law. Now let's look at the options. Every option at this point is bad for the Trump administration. If it continues to push for an unchecked expansion of presidential powers, it risks alienating the judiciary and political opponents who are already mobilizing against it. On the other hand, if it backs down, it risks looking weak, unable to deliver on the promises it made to its base. In either case, the administration loses. The rule of law is at the center of everything unfolding right now. We are watching a fundamental battle between those who believe in the sanctity of constitutional limits and those who wish to push the boundaries of executive power to the breaking point. As Judge Young makes his rulings, it is becoming ever clearer that the rule of law is winning, and with it, the authority of the judiciary. Politically, the fallout is massive. The Trump administration's credibility is on the line. The more the courts reject its actions, the more weakness will be perceived within the administration. The president's most ardent supporters may hold firm, but others in his coalition, particularly those who still believe in the balance of power, will begin to question his ability to lead effectively. Institutionally, the ramifications of this battle will stretch far beyond this administration. Future presidents will be forced to contend with the limits of executive power, especially when it comes to military control and federal funding policies. The judiciary will continue to hold the line, ensuring that the checks and balances that have defined this nation for over 200 years remain intact. In the end, the battle being fought in Judge Young's courtroom will reshape the course of history. The inevitable conclusion is clear. Executive overreach will be checked, and the rule of law will prevail. The future is now, and it will not be the one that the administration imagined.